Am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, am I audible?
Yeah, yes, sir, you are.
Yeah.
So, good evening to one and all present here. I am Vaishnavi Lokapur, content team member at Legal Law Forum. Legal Law Forum is an Nagpur, Maharashtra based, which aim is to provide legal awareness to various activities, and LLF Talk is one of them. So, today we have with us Advocate Udit Atul, obtained his law degree from Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies, New Delhi in 2017 and enrolled in the bar same year. Sir started his career as junior of Mr. Pawan Dugal, a cyber lawyer, and in 2019, Sir assisted Mr. Aman Lehki, Senior Advocate General and presently Additional Solicitor General of India. Since January 2020, Sir is the lead junior in the law chamber of Mr. Talha Abdul Rahman. Sir regularly appears before the Honorable Supreme Court of India and Delhi High Court. I welcome you to the session, sir.
Thank you so much.
So, shall we proceed with the question answers?
Yeah, definitely.
So, the first question goes like this: which body governs media and entertainment law?
Okay, so I'll start with this that the law is not governed by a body per se, but we can say that there are some organizations which cover it. So I'll divide this answer between two heads. One will be the bodies that or the entities which govern the law, and the second will be the enactments which are used to regulate this law. So the biggest or the main body which governs this law is the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, which regulates everything that we see on our screens, our televisions, our radios, etc. So it is a Government of India organization and a ministry, and it has several small partners and entities which help govern it. And other than that, these other organizations will be an association for radio operators. So every FM radio, AM radio station that we hear is regulated by this association. There is not a very long list of organizations, but there is a list of enactments which this law, which the media and entertainment law is covered by. So I'll go on to the laws. So the first law which governs this, the first enactment which governs this media and entertainment law will be the intellectual property rights, which entails copyright, which entails trademark, patent, etc. This is one of the major acts, major laws which look at this law field. The other laws will be like the Drug and Cosmetics Act. There is Drug and Control Act. So any kind of drug use, alcohol, etc., if has to be shown on a content or has to be spoken, you always see a caution message on the video or on the television screen, movie theater scene, because this is the compliance of these acts which I just said, which is Drug, Cosmetics, Drug Control, Food Adulteration Act. So these provide us with guidelines which they have to follow, and these guidelines include showing a caution message, no smoking, and smoking is injurious to health, the disclaimer that we get in the start. There is another major act which is the Emblem and Names Prevention and Improper Use Act. Now there's a very recent example to this, which we can see like in, I think so, a month back or a few months back, the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal was having a press conference, and that made a very big controversy. I'll give you the backdrop is that while the conference was going on, people saw that there were the Indian flag that was like installed behind him was violating the act. It wasn't placed correctly, and that made a very big controversy. So this act provides you guidelines as to how the flag has to be showcased, either on conferences, press conferences, or in movies. It shows as to which color can be shown in which proportion. You cannot be having the flag placed wrongly. So these are some acts, and one of the bigger act will be the Information Technology Act. So these are the bodies as well as the laws which control. Coming to the last, while I'll conclude this answer, is that there are two entities which also look at how to regulate this, and the regulation is done by one of the biggest organizations of the government, is the Broadcasting Content Complaint Council. This council, in short, is it's BCCC. We also have advertisements on television where it shows that if you have any complaints, register a complaint on this website. So anybody, if sees anything obscene, anything wrong on television or any content, Netflix, Amazon, anything, he or she can register a complaint with this organization and get it resolved. And similarly, there is something for the news agencies also, which is the News Broadcasting Standards Authority. So whatever we see on the news, any channel, it can be radio news also or YouTube also, they have to be regulated by this association of standards authority. So yeah, these are the authorities and the bodies that govern media and entertainment law. There is a very vast area, and there might be, in future, there might be more organizations, because there are talks for OTT platforms. They want to create some kind of organization which will look over that also. As of now, there is nothing to look over OTT platforms. So there will be, in future, there will be more organizations made by the government. So yeah.
So thank you. The second question goes like this: what are the qualities one should possess in pursuing media and entertainment law in India or abroad?
So the basic principle behind media and entertainment law is intellectual property rights. The basic. There are other laws also, but basically it revolves around the intellectual property rights. There are copyrights and trademarks majorly. Patents are not that much, but copyright and trademark is universally accepted. The principles are the same, and that is why you see people doing LLMs from USA, UK, etc. Because even if you go and study IPR outside, the principles in USA will apply in India also. So practicing abroad is one of the options. If you get the opportunity, please do. You can do that. But what I feel and what I prefer in practicing in India in media and entertainment law is that I believe India to be a melting pot of cultures. And people will be coming to India, they'll be making content for India, because everybody knows that there is a huge population which looks at screens in India. India is one of the largest populations which looks at screens. There are content consumers, etc. And so practicing in India will be helpful because the market will increase, the industry will increase, eyeballs will increase, and then the demand for lawyers increases, because the content creators require legal protection also. And if you are, the listeners are here ready for those content creators, you will get work like a lot. So practicing in India and abroad is your choice, but the thing is, practicing in India might just give you a lot of exposure to different cultures, different languages also. You can have practice from Assam to Delhi to Jammu, everywhere there will be different people, content creators. There will be different kinds of aspects that you will go through. So you can practice everywhere you want. IPR is living. Even if you will be practicing in India, you can get opportunities to go outside. So the options can be opened everywhere. And yeah, and I think so that answers your question, I guess.
Yes, sir. So the next question is, what is expected salary for this field?
So I won't set a benchmark, because the practice of media and entertainment law is restricted. It's, I won't say restricted, but is basically in metro cities more. Basically Bombay and Delhi, Mumbai and Delhi. There are other cities as well, but the practice in this field is more in these two cities mainly. Now the financial aspect differs from employer to employer. It can be firms. So I won't say that I cannot give you a number, but yes, I can say that if you have your basics clear and you know what is expected from you, you can have the sky to the limit of any sort of remuneration. But for example, I'll say that in Delhi, if you start in a firm for legal practice, you can anyway start in the starting as a fresher. You can anyway start with 35, 40, I guess. It still depends on your knowledge of the concepts, the knowledge of law. You can say the similar for Mumbai also, but this is not that shouldn't be taken as a benchmark. It can be less, it can be more. It depends on you as well. So there can be no salary per se, but yeah, you can start with this kind of an amount.
Okay, sir. Then what about work life? Will it be hectic or like
So
busy?
the work life for any lawyer is hectic. But the thing is that there is a difference between lawyers as well. There are lawyers who practice only litigation, and then there are lawyers who do corporate. Now, media and entertainment law comes into a different, comes to more so towards the corporate life, because there is not a lot of litigation per se, not per se in the field. The media and entertainment law is basically mostly revolving around contracts, agreements, deeds. Because like one actor enters into an agreement with other, unless and until there is a big dispute between both of them, they will never go to court. They will try to resolve it. So your practice starts in contract drafting, agreements, negotiations. So the hectic life is always there. You can get a client in midnight also, so you might have to just run and help him out. And it's not necessary it's a contract thing, it can be a criminal case also. So the life can be hectic as well as smooth. It depends on what work on you are doing. If you are basically working towards contract drafting, you are working in a firm, there is no limit to work.
So then in future aspects of this sector can be expected to grow.
I won't say future aspects, I'll say it's still growing. It is growing every day. It will grow, it will eventually grow to be one of the, for our listeners, we can say it will be growing for our financial aspects more for the lawyers per se. Because we can see content creators as well as companies that are making content for India. We can see Netflix making movies, shows specifically for India. We can see Amazon making content for India. So and when they make laws, they make movies, shows for India, they need lawyers. So the next time you see a show or a movie, just try and find the name of the legal associate or the legal company that is going through. So the next time, if you are fortunate enough, your name might also come on the screen in the credits. So yes, it's a very growing area of law. Tomorrow, for example, even we can have lawyers representing YouTubers because they also need it. There are YouTubers with copyright strikes. They want to contest it. Where do they go? They come to lawyers. So because India has one of the largest screen viewing audience, that area of law increases. Not only media but entertainment law also. People are making short movies, documentaries, etc. They also need protection. They also need assistance of a lawyer, because a lawyer will help them know as to what they can show, how they can show it correctly, and what they should not show. And that is where our listeners will come to the rescue and help them out. And that is how the industry grows for us lawyers. And I think it will grow eventually, boost for us. Yeah.
So then if you don't mind, please share one of the case which you have come across.
So I'll like give you two cases which I didn't came across per se. I have gone through the case when I was studying I was trying to understand the law to practice it some way. So one of the, like, if our listeners also for tomorrow go and try to read the kind of cases that come into, they come across two big cases. One of the case will be Titan Limited, Titan the watch company versus Ram Kumar Jewellers. So in this case, it's a very important case in the field of law, as well as it has very interesting facts. You can go online, you can see what happens in the case. I'll give you a very brief fact. So Amitabh Bachchan and his wife were in a advertisement for Titan watches. They had billboards made, they had an advertisement made for it. Now what happens, Ram Kumar Jewellers, they use the photograph of Jaya Bachchan and Amitabh Bachchan exactly in a hoarding in Mumbai. They place it in Mumbai on the highways. Exact copy, they didn't even want to change it. Now when this hoarding was placed, Titan went to court and stated that this is a violation of their rights, their copyright. Because they were using Amitabh Bachchan and Jaya Bachchan's photographs without their permission, as well as without the permission of Titan. So when they went to the court decided that Ram Kumar Jewellers had violated their rights, had violated their intellectual property, and they were directed to remove it immediately. So this is one of the cases. The law behind it, I will encourage my listeners to go and read this case, because it will be helpful for you to understand the law. I will not tell you per se, because then you will not exactly understand. I encourage reading the case more than telling it. The second case is a very interesting case where Gautam Gambhir, the cricketer, had filed a case against a cafe in Delhi. Now this cafe, I'll give you the case name. It's Gautam Gambhir versus DAP. So this cafe was having, inside the cafe there were photos of people, but the cafe named was Gautam Gambhir or Gambhir. Now what happened, Gautam Gambhir came with a complaint stating that I am not associated with this cafe. How is this person using my name and making money out of it? Either he should be stopped or I should get royalties for it. The court went into the aspects of the law and they saw that the owner, his name was Gautam. So this person was using his own name in his cafe, not using the cricketer's popularity, his the social status of Gautam Gambhir in popularizing his cafe. He was not doing that. He was just, if you go into the cafe, you can see random photos of himself, not Gautam Gambhir. And hence the Delhi High Court declined Gautam Gambhir's complaint and let the cafe run by himself. So this can be two cases that are like popular. There are several other cases, like because of content coming online, there are several cases that everybody have heard. They can go online and search for cases. There are websites that have given a list of cases which people can read. PDFs are available in it. So yeah, these are the two cases.
So the next question is, what professional ethics one should have while consulting the client?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't get you.
What professional ethics and values one should have while consulting the client?
So professional ethics is that, see, for a lawyer, his client will always be his client. It doesn't matter if his client is Akshay Kumar or anybody. For him, the client will come with a certain facts and he has to listen with him. He or she should not be in awe as to what the person in front of him is. Or for example, tomorrow if Dharma Productions comes to you to seek some advice, you should be firm and be able to help them out. So this is one of the ethics, that you should not be in awe of them. Other than that, you should have the clarity of your basic understanding of law. Because if you have basic understanding of law, you will be able to help your client from any sort of problems. Now, for example, if you they come up with a contractual problem with you and you seek time to like come across it, it goes with a very bad impression towards you. So you should have a basic clarity of thought. Other than that, I think reading helps a lot for a lawyer. So I think yeah, I think so this is these are some ethics that you should follow. Other than that, basic etiquettes towards a client are very important. You should not cheat your client, not go and backstab. You should never go and negotiate behind him, because in this field of law, where media and entertainment law, there are people who will come and try and convince you to not or go against your client for some reason. So you shouldn't do that, because then people lose the trust not only in you but also in the profession.
Thank you, sir. So the next question goes like this: how the case in media law changed after the recent shift of movie release from multiplex to OTT platforms?
So the cases haven't have changed a lot, because when movies were only released in theaters, there were other problems which were faced by people and other issues that rose. For example, when you go and want to release a movie, you have to first go and get a distributor. Then you have to then that distributor will go and have a contract with the theaters who will go and showcase your movies. So there is one contract between the director and the distributor. Then there is another contract between the distributor and the theaters. Then there are endorsements. Everything has a different contract, and there are different disputes to it. Now coming to the OTT platforms, the contract between the distributor and the theater has been eliminated, and there are contract between the content providers. Now the content providers have a different kind of thought process. Now you see that there have been several cases of several allegations, several issues that people face about obscenity, about the content that is shown, about the language that is used. So these are some problems that have now arisen, which were not while in the theaters, because when the matter was in theaters, it was regulated by the Ministry of Information Broadcasting and a different set of laws. The OTT doesn't have laws specifically created for them. They are not properly regulated as of now, even though the government are wanting to enact laws for it. As of now, they are not. So the OTT have a very vast eye for content. They give liberty to their content creators to make any sort of content they want. There are different platforms for different contents. You have several OTT platforms which show adult content. There are like Amazon and Netflix have a different section for content only for children. So these all are ways of avoiding problems, avoiding cases. Now, what are the kind of cases that people come up with now? OTT platforms, the tolerance level of people have changed. People get offended by any sort of thing that they don't feel like, so they just raise a complaint towards it. You have seen several examples. The most recent example that I can think of was the issue of when a person came to the Supreme Court, I guess, or the High Court, stating that Amazon's series of Mirzapur showed his city or his district, also known Mirzapur, in a bad light. I don't think this sort of problem ever came with movies, because in movies they had like restrictions not to use the exact name of places unless you have permission towards doing that. But OTT platforms have that sort of liberty, and hence there are these kind of new cases that come up. Now, for us lawyers, that is also, I won't say it's a good thing, but it's something for us to explore and have a different aspect towards our practice. So yeah, these are some new kinds of situations that come up from when the shift has taken from the theaters to OTT platforms.
Okay, sir. The next question is your piece of advice to the people who are willing to join this sector.
My piece of advice. What I'll tell the aspiring lawyers who want to get into entertainment law, but yeah, the following can be used as in a normal practice also. So first of all, your goal has to be specific as to what you have to do. You should know what kind of practice you want to do. I totally accept that people might not know as to what they have to do, but if you have some kind of a goal, it helps you a lot. The second is you should have clarity of mind, which is the same thing which I said, but you should have, like, once you have a goal, you should have a clarity of mind as to what I have to do and how should I do it. And that clarity will come once you talk to people. And that comes to the next thing, is that once you have a goal, you should work towards the goal. Now, for example, tomorrow if I'm in college, or our listeners who are students, they want to practice in media and entertainment law. So what they can do is they can start with their internships at correct places, correct firms, correct law offices which practice in that law. This will give them a live and a live experience as to how that law is practiced. They can get a PP out of it. That is how people can learn and get into that area of law from the start of their career. There are people who get into the law after a point of time, but if you are always interested in this sort of law and this sort of atmosphere, you should do it from the start of your college, which is through internships. And the next point is that you should have a basic understanding of the law that you want to practice. Now, in media entertainment law, what are the laws that you have to go through? The basic laws will remain the same for every kind of practice. It's not necessary for media and entertainment law, but basic laws as like CPC, CRPC, IPC, evidence, they will remain the same. But the basic law, but the most fundamental law which media and entertainment law follows is contract. You should have basic as well as some kind of practicing knowledge of law, because that will help you in drafting good contracts, drafting agreements. There are several agreements that normal people don't know about in general terms, that only come to you when you practice that sort of law. For example, there are line production agreements. While you see movies, there is a person called line production. So that person also gets into a contract. There are producer and director agreements. There are agreements between the actor and his agency. There are advertising agreements. So these all agreements, you will only come in contact once you practice that law, and that practice can only come because you are in a learning phase. You should do towards your internships. So I specifically want people to get into internships for these organizations, which will help you. Other than that, one other example is that you should write. Writing as an intent is to write articles. You can write blogs. So what is the use of writing blogs and articles is that it will help you first refine your knowledge. Second, it will help you research your improve your researching skills, and lastly, it will develop your intellectual thinking, which every lawyer should have. That helps you a lot once you get into the practice, because the language that you use in drafting a contract should be specific and extremely clear. Now, that specificity and clarity will only come once you have the habit of writing such, and that will only come from writing articles, because there is no other way of writing such. So you write an article, if your writing article gets published somewhere, it gives you a boost that yes, I can write, and hence my language over the legal English is important. That comes to the next point, is that there is something called as English, and in practice there is something called as legal English. Now, if you have understanding of legal English, you can do wonders in your own practice. It is not necessarily media entertainment law, but any sort of practice. So I will want my listeners to just go and research as to what is legal English. If they can understand and learn what is legal English, they'll be very it will be very helpful for them in the career. And I think so. This is the points which a person should follow, and they will uh, succeed in their life for media and entertainment law, which I feel. But these principles can also be used for any other lawyer also, or a student also. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir. I'm done with my questions. You want to add something to it? Please go ahead.
Not necessarily as of now. If you want to take any questions, if there are, I can still think of something else if I want to.
Since audience don't have any questions.
Okay, as of now I don't have anything else to add on. But yeah, you should one very small, like adding to the last question that you asked about what is the advice, is that you should, I'll just add to the point, which is the law you have to study, is that you should be very much educated and knowledgeable about the Copyright Act, because Copyright Act has a very large role to play in the media and entertainment law. There are other laws as well. There are, like, if somebody wants to practice criminal law but also be associated with media and entertainment law, what can he or she do? So there are laws like defamation. There are laws like mostly I think so defamation, because as of now with the influx of OTT, people get offended very clearly. So if you have a rising practice in defamation, also defamation cases, that can also help you out a lot. Apart from this, I'll just say that media and entertainment law, a person might want to get interested in that sort of law is because it is a very living law. You see that law in front of you every day. You wake up, you are doing your office work, but you will see your screen more than an hour or something. You will see YouTube, you will see Amazon, you will see any sort of content. That all content, anything you see on a screen, majorly is governed by the law of media and entertainment. And if you are practicing that law, you can brag about it, that yes, I am, what you are seeing on your screen, I am practicing. It is because of me that you are looking at that law, because I am the one who is regulating it. So if you can refine that, if you enter into that law, it's a very good practice area. There is a glamour aspect to it also, for people who are interested in that. The financial aspect is also huge. If people are, there are several reasons for people to go into this sort of field. So there is something for everybody in this law for practice.
Thank you, sir. Then we'll conclude the session.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much.